Let's start to dive in. We have a really great session today focused on mid-year review with a big theme around problem solving. So just to kind of get us moving in the right direction, introduce myself. I've met a lot of you, but my name is Vince Carone. I'm the VP of Success here with, thank you for the Mighty Ducks reference. I'm the VP of Success here with Cultivate Advisors. My role is really just focused on ensuring client satisfaction, both pre, during, and post your partnership with Cultivate Advisors. If you have any suggestions, any feedback, any concerns, you want to just give a high five, you can relay that to me. I'll be glad to take in the feedback and help shape a better partnership between us. So that's really my role with Cultivate Advisors. We have a really action-packed webinar and post breakout session in store for us today. I want to just set the expectation up top. This is 90 minutes. Okay, we're going to spend about 60 of that on Demio here on this webinar platform. We're going to bring in Dan Gramann, the co-founder of the company, to really walk us through some great skills. We'll give you some community updates, and then we're going to get you into your breakout sessions. We heard the feedback last time around. You wanted more time in your breakout groups. So we're going to save 30 minutes for you to switch over to Zoom at the end. We'll give you some direction on how to do that, where you can spend about 30 minutes in your roundtable discussions discussing the great content we have in store for today. So for some engagement technique, use the chat like you've been using. Along the way, share what's sticking out to you along the way. Share your reflective learning, share your experiences. You learn from each other just as much as you learn from us. We really want to keep you encouraged to keep sharing your experiences with another one, with the other parties. We may launch some polls or some action items along the way to keep a pulse on the group, to keep checking your engagement, make sure you're still awake, things of that nature. And then post webinar, we're going to give you some resource options as well. So, and if you can't stick around for the roundtables, that's okay. Bring some of the feedback to your advisors in your next session, but you're going to get some real great quality time with other like-minded business owners. So we really encourage you and hope you can stick around for the roundtable sessions. So a quick shout out before we dive in. JustWorks handles benefits, payrolls, HR, and compliance all in one place. They are one of our sponsor for the year for all of our events. If you're in need of these types of services, reach out to JustWorks. We use them. We highly recommend them as well. Let's dive in here. We want to get right into the content here. So I'm going to introduce Dan Gramann. Dan, if you can come on video and get your screen ready here. Dan is the co-founder of Cultivate Advisors, and he's also our VP of training, which means he's worked with all of our advisors one-on-one to help grow them, to bring you better partnerships. And he's also talked and met and worked with so many of our clients over time. And he's got some great content today that he's going to share with us. So Dan, I'm going to stop my screen and let you share and take over. We'll talk to you in a bit.
All right. Thanks, Vince. Appreciate the introduction here, and appreciate your choice of the picture here that you gave for me. I haven't seen this one in a while. This is from the good old Brew Your Skill days. But again, good seeing everybody here. I know that I've met a lot of you out in the field there. As Vince mentioned, I'm the VP of training. So I spend a ton of time with all of our advisors, meeting clients, and just seeing how we're just bringing all of our best practices together as we work in sessions day to day here at Cultivate. So I want to dive right into our content here. So to kick off, again, it's the mid-year review, so it's hard to believe that it's already July and we're already looking at the second half of the year. What a crazy year, right? I'm sure for some of you, my quote of the year has been, this has been the slowest, fastest year of my life. It seems slow at times, it seems fast. It's just been a crazy year. So either way, whether it's a year of the craziness we've all had with COVID and everything going on in the world, or it's a normal business year, you always should really take a moment at the mid-year point to really do a good review. And so today is all about really making sure you've got a good process of problem solving and critical thinking to identify what priorities to move on forward. Where do you spend your time to ensure the second half of the year? And as you prepare for 2021 and beyond, what should you be focused on? So again, we're going to really make sure you're honed in on what is a good process to really critically think and problem solve the right areas to identify the priorities for the future so you know where to spend time on the business. So before I dive into this, if everybody could just take a moment here and just quick chat in What's the biggest problem you want to solve as you reflect on the first 6 months of the year, as you think about the next 6 months of the year? What is the biggest problem that you want to solve in your business? So Jeremy wants to apparently solve the vaccine for COVID. Jeremy, if you solve that, please let us know. Send the vaccine out to all of us. Really would appreciate that. So, Andy, lead generation. Riva, how to keep this momentum. I can't wait to hear about the momentum you've got going. Hand some of that momentum to some of our clients. Goal setting, higher pay wages, strong sales process, acquiring personnel. Sounds like we got some hiring going on. We got to get the right people in place. Cash flow, solving the cash flow. Keeping staff excited. I'm sure that we've seen an emotional roller coaster and culture is really challenging. It can be a problem right now. Keep them coming in. Lead flow, absolutely. Well, fantastic. Well, whatever the problem is, we're not going to solve everything today. This is just the kickoff to the mid-year review, and it's going to continue back home in your business. It's going to continue back home in your sessions with your advisors. So, but I really appreciate you jumping in here and chatting what problems you're really thinking about as you reflect on the past and we start to move forward on the second half of the year. So, if anybody can relate here, this roller coaster probably looks familiar. The 2020 roller coaster of emotions. Jump on the chat here and just, I'm curious, how many times did you ride this twisting, winding roller coaster on the first half of this year? I'm just curious, how many times have you rode this roller coaster here in 2020 so far? 100 plus from Vince. Vince, I didn't know it was that bad. That's crazy. Kate Daly, for sure. Every day, too many times to count. Absolutely. You know, and here's the crazy thing too is here's my second follow-up question. Without COVID, going back to a typical business year of just owning and operating your business, how many times have you ran this roller coaster? How many times have you done these twists and turns? Vince, I did the same thing you did. I asked a numbers question, then I asked a numbers question. This is going to be hard to determine what we've got here. So Vince, but you are 100 plus again. Okay, that's good. So, so the reality is with or without a pandemic, we're riding roller coasters all the time because we made the decision to own businesses. And that's just a reality. So COVID is just like an additional roller coaster that we threw on top of the other roller coasters that we're riding. So welcome to the club for all of us, right? The reality is that none of us are alone owning a business. It's just the reality, right? Like, so none of you are alone. So whether it's the COVID situation that's really challenging right now, or just the standard owning of a business and that roller coaster you're riding all the time, the reality is we're always on this. Like when we run a business, life does this to us as well. We ride this transition curve. So I don't know if any of you have seen this transition curve. We've talked about this in previous sessions in our content. We talk about this internally in our business as well, but this is the transition curve of life. It's the transition curve inside of our business. And the reality is that we ride this thing every hour, every day, every week, every year, and it can look really up and down. It can be a little bit more flat. But one thing that we've seen consistently is that the most successful entrepreneurs, the most successful business owners identify and accept this transition curve. Not that they love it, but the reality is that they understand where they're at on this curve every step of the way. So it's really important to understand, like your typical business problem. So let's say you're in the middle of step one, you're uninformed optimism. You're all excited about this next step of like, I'm going to hire a salesperson. This is going to be amazing. I don't have to do the sales anymore. It's going to be fantastic. And then you kind of get to the informed pessimism. Okay, I hired them. They're not that good. They're not closing deals. This is not working. This is interesting. You go further along down that path of the new salesperson, crisis of meaning. Okay, they haven't landed a deal. I've been spending money on salary, zero commissions to them. I'm starting to get to a negative cash flow situation, crisis of meaning, right? And at that point, you either decide to crash and burn. Do I continue with this whole option, or do I work hard to push through this to figure out that salesperson or getting the right salesperson to make this new tactic or strategy work for the future? And if you push hard through it to hopeful realism, you start to see light at the end of the tunnel, and you get through the moments, you start to create success, informed optimism. This can happen over the journey of something new you're implementing. It can happen over the course of an hour of something crazy going on where you're excited, you're no longer excited, holy crap, and then you're working through it. But just understand that as we work through these problems moving forward on the second half of this year, moving forward, we're going to talk about that process of problem solving and where to spend your time moving forward. This curve is going to exist no matter what. So whatever challenge or problem you solve or start to solve today and then get further through it in the future, week to week, month to month, it doesn't mean it's going to go amazing. There's going to be some major hardships and you might hit crisis of meaning along the way. You're going to have some decisions, but I'm just asking you all to be Rocky Balboa. Make sure that when you get knocked down, keep getting up and push forward, work towards the future and flatten that roller coaster as much as you can. But accept where we're at and continue to be great business owners. So as we go through this, moving forward from this roller coaster, moving into the mid-season review, bringing focus, I want to just talk through a few items here around how we're going to bring focus. And before we do that, I want to make sure that as we talk about these problems, these challenges that you're bringing to the table and chatting in here today, and that you're probably going to talk about in your breakout groups with your peers, your fellow entrepreneurs that are on this call here today, prognosis without diagnosis is malpractice, right? So when you think about a doctor, you don't go to a doctor, say your leg hurts, they throw you a bottle of pills and boom, it's problem solved, right? That's just not the way it works, right? I wish it was that easy that if we said, I need more leads, boom, you buy a widget, done, leads are in the door, we hit the revenue, everything's good to go, right? So the reality is problem solving is a science to get down into what it means to really identify what are we healing, what are we solving, and what are we moving forward on. So it's going to take some patience. It's going to take time to settle into it, understand it before you solve moving forward. So where we're going to start today is we're going to start more on the business plan of what is your business plan and looking at the leading indicators of what are the leading indicators inside of your business plan, those numbers that you've got going on that you're working towards to go, you know what, that is the leading indicator that's not going well right now inside of my business plan. I want to problem solve that. And we're going to go through the how to handle these problems before we get to, and we're going to finish off with Vince more around the time and a tool to actually make sure you're tracking your progress of solving these problems. So starting with the business plan, identifying the leading indicator, then starting to get into the solving process, and we're going to move on from there. And as we look at this business planning side of things, I also want to make sure, remember everyone, it's really important to remember you're not giving up the vision. You just might be extending the timeline. So, COVID hit for some of you, and it actually might have been a good thing. And now revenue went up. There's a lot of people that it was not a good thing, and it really threw off the plan. Does that mean that your vision, your long-term goals are done? No, the reality is it might have just extended. So maybe your 5-year plan has become your 6-year plan. Just accept it, move on. It is okay. What I don't want you to do is crush your own dreams and say the vision can't become a reality. All of those big long-term goals, the vision that you want, it's still sitting out there. It just might have got extended here. And so I'm just proud of you all for taking the time to be here today, being patiently working through your business with your advisor, patiently working through your business on your own with your employees, and really focusing and honing in to fight for the future. So whatever happened in your situation, we're still working towards that long-term vision on your business plan. So now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of what exactly we want to solve inside of our businesses, we're looking at our business plans, right? So maybe you looked at it today with your advisor or last week, or you look at it ongoing every week. But I'm sure that when you look at it, you see that you took these big macro vision and goals and you broke down into all the micros, right? And so this is an example to the right here of this graphic of an example of a macro goal for this example business for 2020. 100K profit. To get to that, they need $530,000 in revenue. And basically this person has a $12,000 average client size, which would mean they need 44 clients. Based on their conversions, they need 133 proposals to go out, and based on their slippage rate with leads and marketing, they need 190 leads. Anyways, I could dig deeper and deeper into the details of this funnel to get to a macro plan for this very simplistic business plan, just for the sake of an example here. So with that, the reason I wanted to show this to you is because we're about to move towards leading indicators inside of the business, right? And before I go to this graphic, you're going to see that there's these smaller controllable metrics that allow us to work towards the macro side of the business, those bigger, hardy goals that you're working towards. So when it comes to leading indicators, you want to identify what those are that are important to you before we get into the problem solving side of things. So, and there's two indicators that are typically in a business. There's leading indicators and there's lagging indicators. The leading indicators basically predict and will the result and the reflection of the lagging indicators, right? These are the things that predict the performance. These are the things that you're more in control of, that you're working on, that will have an output and a result on the end, right? So some examples here, some leading indicators, like I need so many leads to get to so many proposals to get to so many clients, right? If I don't get to the leads, down the path, I don't get to the revenue or the number of clients. Conversion ratio, that's a leading indicator that if I'm not hitting this percentage of close rate with these leads, I'm not going to get to the sales closed clients to get to my revenue, right? Some clients have a very accurate marketing spend and they understand that like when I spend this amount of marketing dollar in these core areas, it results in this many leads, right? Number of proposals, right? If we got to hit this number of proposals, this is a leading indicator that determines the future of the business. Number of appointments set up. Anyways, I could go down a path of 20, 30, 40, 50 different things that you watch inside of your business. I don't know what your numbers are, but if you could take a moment, what are some leading indicators inside of your business that kind of reflect the results of the future of your business? Take a moment, jump in the chat, and write down one or two examples of leading indicators that you keep watch on. John, number of web demos, bookings, keep throwing them up there. What else? Inbound leads from the website, average ticket sale, number of online orders daily, referrals. These are awesome examples, guys. Keep them coming in. Walkthroughs. Perfect. Keep them coming. These, by the way, if you're not thinking of them, these are extremely crucial as we start to work in this webinar towards the next step of problem solving. So again, as you look at these leading indicators, they start to reflect the lagging indicators, the output, right? Like what the margin is, the EBITDA of the business. They start to reflect other numbers like overall attrition of clients, profit, revenue. So fantastic. So start to look at those leading indicators. They're going to come into play again as we continue to work through this. Now, the reality is, in a perfect world, we could go solve all of these things that we watch every day in our business, all of these leading indicators. But the reality is, you can only focus on a few small items at a time if you really, really want to see result. Because in mass chaos, stress, and panic, it kind of causes us to try to solve the entire world, and it's just not going to work out, right? So I'm going to pick on Vince for a moment, but if you've ever golfed with this guy, sorry, Vince is not a good golfer. Vince is definitely not a good golfer. I'm not picking on anybody that's not a great golfer, and I'm actually not even that great of a golfer. I've been trying to get better, but Vince really needs to work on his swing. When we went golfing last week, he was trying to solve the world. Keep in mind, it was his third time golfing. True story. Third time golfing, not good. If anybody can raise their hand and relate to Vince, definitely give him some props right now for trying to get out there and try to master this sport that just gets in your mind and eats you up. But he was in that mass chaos, stress, panic of just, he was swearing, he was upset, he was slamming his club. He was just frustrated. And I think he was just overthinking everything. How do I hold the club? How do I stand? How do I look at the ball? How do I do this? And he was trying to solve everything. The crazy part about golf, if you ever golf, is there are a billion different things and techniques and ways you can tweak specific areas of your swing to get better and better and better. And so you can't solve it. If you ever known anybody that reads every Golf Digest magazine and they try to adopt all of those new methods of solving their swing, it just doesn't work. It just becomes worse sometimes. So with Vince, I took the time and just said, can I give you like 2 pointers? He said, yeah. He was a little pissed off at the time. And I said, you're like standing really far away from the ball, and so your club head is kind of kicking up and it's shooting your ball. It's curling to the left, that's because of the angle of your club. I need you to step a little bit closer to the ball. That's it, just one thing right there. Start standing like that. The second thing, stop watching the ball where it's going. Keep your eye down on the ball. Even after you swing through, stay focused on the ball. Two things, that's it. Don't think about anything else. Guess what? His score got better hole to hole. So good job, Vince. We're all proud of you. Everybody give Vince a round of applause for being terrible at golf, but being better already. So sorry, Vince. I see. Okay, yeah, I'm going to pick on you a little bit more later here, but don't worry about it. So anyways, golf is no different than business. You can't solve everything at once. Don't solve the world. You all wrote down some leading indicators. And again, we're not going to solve everything. Pick one, two, or three. Really, really hone in on the future. Where do you have the least amount of control in your business where you need to get that control, right? Really identify the biggest indicators. And remember, you got to kind of be ready to flex and flow too. Your leading indicators may be shifting over time in the business. So in this example, maybe in April, you had lots of leads and you were extremely focused on the closing ratio, closing those leads to clients. That was the only thing you're focused on. But now in June, leads have dried up. And so now your focus has shifted to a totally different leading indicator. You're no longer focused on the closing ratio. So in business, it's the same way. We have to adjust with time, but get very honed in on 2 to 3. Sorry, Vince. Yes, nobody wants to golf with you anymore. Don't worry, Vince. There's a lot of us that shoot over 100 that will join you for golf, and I do want to golf with you again. So anyways, we've really identified, we've looked at the business plan. We've looked at very specific numbers, micros within the business plan, the leading indicators that throw out the results on the future of the business, right? Now we want to start to go down the path of problem solving. And this is all about the process that I'm going to walk through here right now. And so I would say for everybody that's on the call, I bet you 50% of you have actually seen us walk through this process before. I want to make sure we review this and create this as a muscle, this process, either for you in your own head, if you are a sole owner of the business, you've got no employees, it's just you alone, and you've problem solved this yourself or with your advisor, or you've got a couple key employees, how you can use this process together ongoing as you continue to solve the future. Or if you got teams and you can start to adopt this process and show them this process to like think critically this way before just putting band-aids on problems and potentially not solving the right thing. So that's where we're going to go here. So again, forewarning, some of you have seen this process and you have probably seen this in our toolkit. It's the problem-solving process, SIREN. Okay, it's symptom, information, root, options, next steps. So I'm going to walk through one by one. I'll probably slow down on a couple of these, but I just want to make sure we all just gather these steps that whenever you solve a problem, slow down and take this process moving forward. So the first thing is the symptom is identified. This is the general issue, the reason for why the process needs to start. So basically a lot of the things that you might have thought of, like, I have an issue with this leading indicator, I'm working on this leading indicator. That's usually the start of a symptom, right? I want to solve this in my business. It's just the general issue that comes to mind of like, I feel like this is, if I can solve this thing, I'm going to be fine. Like the business is going to be in a whole different place. So just make a statement of what the symptom is. This second step, before I talk through it, this is probably the number one skipped step for a lot of entrepreneurs. And the reason is because we are so go, 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 solve, solve, solve. We move too fast. So this is the part, step 2, to really, really slow down and make sure you do information gathering. This is where you want to get all the facts and feelings around this symptom or issue that you've announced. What is every single fact? What is every metric? What is every piece of data? What is that person doing to influence that? What is that person doing to influence that? Why do I think that is, right? Get others involved in information gathering. If you are trying to solve a closing ratio within your team and you're really going, we got to get our sales better, you're probably going to talk to the sales team and really dig into like, what do you think? Why do you think that is? What's your closing ratio? Let's go through every step. Go through every single detail to make sure you fully understand the situation in full before you make any assumptions. So don't ever assume. You make a donkey out of you and me. Don't ever assume. So go through all the facts and feelings. This is the info gathering. So again, I know a lot of us as entrepreneurs are like, let's go, let's go, let's go. This is the part you got to like force your patience and get into the details, right? I've seen people spend days in a boardroom just whiteboarding everything on information gathering around an issue they're trying to solve to finally go, it's starting to become real. I'm starting to see what the root problem is. This is the most critical step, right? So it's now clear after you've gone and looked at everything that's on the board, all of the data, all the facts, all the feelings, and you go, I'm starting to circle a few of these. I'm starting to identify, I think I now see what our root problem is. We need to hone in on this one thing, right? It could be as simple as like, our closing ratio is terrible. You're going down this path, you're going through, you understand the whole sales process, every single metric, and then you finally identify that it's actually just this one meeting, or it's just these two people. Actually, this person sells at a 75% closing ratio. What we don't need to solve them, like we got to get into the root now of these two people. Anyways, hone in, hone in, hone in, get into the root, because then that is what will start to create options. Because once you've identified a root, now it's time to talk about options. Again, I often see people at the info gathering, they start to already throw options. Let's solve it this way. Let's try this. Let's try this. No, just get the data. Identify what the root is. Now start to go, now that we're seeing crystal clear what we need to solve, generate the many, many different options of what you think could support. And this is kind of one of those rocket ship or nothing things. It's like, we're going to do nothing about it is one way of looking at it, or to the extreme of we're going to build a rocket ship and it's going to do this and it's going to solve the issue. Don't judge anybody on the options they're throwing out. Get them on the table. Then you can evaluate, start to narrow down and choose the option of what you want to do moving forward to solve the root. That's where you start to get into the next steps to implement. The long-term goals need to be set. You need to set some tactics around what this new plan is, the timing of those tactics, people, who needs to be involved, what's that going to cost, get into the schedule, track, and just get involved in the details, start to move forward on that. So again, I wanted to just go back through Siren again, because this is a great process that you'll probably kind of see that a lot of times your advisor will do on some of your roadmap items around, like, you're starting with a symptom and you're getting super into the details of like all the data and identifying all the facts and feelings before you identify like, this is what we're going to do and here's the options to move forward to solve. So Siren is a great problem solving way of approaching in your business, either you as the owner or to get your employees involved or get to teams to be using this process internally for themselves. So here we're at this point. So far in the webinar today for the content, we've identified your leading indicators. What are those things within your business plan when you look at, like, that's what I want to get honed in on and start to solve, right? You went through a process now on how to get deeper into how you're going to solve. So using the Siren process to get to the root and solve those leading indicators. And now it's time about allocating your time to focus on those indicators. So it's kind of the now what stage, right? You've gotten through the options and you're going, how do I spend my time to create this change for the future now that I'm starting to build a plan around solving? So I'm going to walk through this on time allocation pretty quickly here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it back to Vince, because he's going to give you a really simple tool that's going to bring some hyper focus on how you're going to be watching your time to, if you care about these problems truly, that you are very focused in on how are you spending your time to tackle these. So we all know that if you look at the past, what you were doing before with your time and what the things you were doing with your time, where you were spending time, it probably is not going to work. And so you're going to have to change plans. So it's more now like, what do you need to do moving forward? So just be conscious that when you truly make a decision to solve a root issue, like, you're going to have to change how you do things. Your habits and your days are going to have to change. So I'm going to walk you through some ways and some options that you can actually make sure you get to that. So I'm going to breeze through these. And if you haven't done it yet, and you really want to make sure you get your time hyper focus so that you're getting the most ROI on your time and solving these issues or other things going on in your business, again, go to personal productivity in the learning center on the client portal. Make sure you go there because it's got a lot of awesome tools that go way deeper beyond this quick flash through that I'm going to do to ensure you know how to make sure you allocate time and create time for solving these issues. So first thing you can do, one option is just to simplify your time, right? You could lean down your time in some things that you just know, like I probably could do less of that. I could probably do less of this thing. Just lean down your time in areas that are just sucking up time and figure out how to do that. You could lower the number of items through priority management indicators, right? You could basically just go, you know what, actually, now that I look at priority management, I could actually just stop doing this thing, start to actually decide which items to do. Again, I'm not going to teach priority management today, but simplify. That's like a simple stage one to create more time for solving these issues for the future. Second option is to batch your time. So it's grouping similar items together where maybe you can do kind of like leverage groups of time on the same time blocks to make sure that you're actually hitting a couple items at the same time. And with that, you're just going to have to be more focused on block scheduling to ensure you're organized in how you attack your week moving forward. And then with leverage for option three, there's things like you could get a virtual assistant as an option to take some very small admin items off. You could get a part-time contractor to like offload some things to open up your calendar. There are technologies that you could leverage that actually will just make your life easier, freeing up time for the future. There's other flexible opportunities out there. I'm sure you're already exploring some of this with your advisor, but just wanted to quickly go through these. But at the end of the day, the goal here is to get you to spending at least 50% of your time going on solving these leading indicators. So you've got these things that you've identified at the beginning here today of I'm always watching these indicators. There's a couple of them that are not going well and I want to solve them. You're going to get a chance to talk about those in your group. But moving forward after today, my challenge to you, and when I turn it back to Vince, he's going to show you a tool to just make sure you start to bring hyper focus of tracking your time, getting to the point of where 50% of your time as the owner of the business is focused on hitting these major issues in the business, that the other things are not pulling you off of solving the biggest items in your business. So that's the ultimate goal. The other thing when it comes to time is if you have teams, if you've got employees, you're going to have to get into their calendars too, right? So if you haven't had a habit in the past of getting involved on a deeper level with your teams around how they're spending their time, what are they doing and why are they putting time on those things in their calendars? I know some of you might go, oh, I'm not a micromanager. It's okay. It is okay. The reality is we just went through a pandemic. We're still in it and we're all solving stuff. It's okay to be very transparent of what you're doing, why you're getting involved and what you're trying to solve and get them involved and get into the details. So get in their calendars, find out what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what should they be focused on moving forward and start giving some direction. So, and how to drive efficiencies to put time on those indicators, right? So get your team involved. You can't do it alone. So whether you got one employee or a bunch of teams out there, make sure you get into the details. It's not micromanagement. It's actually like hyper focus and making sure you're tackling the right things. So I wanted to go through those three major items here around identifying on the business plan, getting into the process once you got some leading indicators you're trying to solve, getting into the problem solving process to truly identify the roots and how you're going to move forward, and then time allocation moving forward. At this point, I'm going to turn it back to Vince here because he's going to take you through this tool, grab some learning, and we're going to get into the fun portion of actually breaking out into our groups here. So Vince, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Awesome, thanks, Dan. I'm just sharing my screen so we can move forward on mine. So I really appreciate you walking us through a couple of items here, Dan, getting our heads wrapped around what leading indicators are, how we can go about the problem-solving process to get to the root so we actually know which indicators to go follow up on, and then how to actually, what we're going to teach next, how to actually schedule some time around that. And Dan shared some time allocation techniques there as well. What else did we establish here? I'm a terrible golfer. I'm a terrible skier. I can't do things. Thank you all for roasting me. It's much appreciated. Keeps me humble and keeps me serving you. Thank you for that. But I do want to focus a little bit and kind of connect some dots here. Dan teed us up here and we talked about the what, identifying our leading indicators. That's what we need to do. That's where some of the pain points are. We talked about the how to get to the root to actually go solve those indicators. And now we're going to talk about the when, and branch off of what Dan started talking about, the when, allocating our time to go focus on those indicators. Dan talked about a quote of prognosis without diagnosis is malpractice. And we talked about going to a doctor, and we don't just get prescribed something before we actually diagnose what that is. And let's use that analogy a little bit further here. We've talked about the what. We've gone to the doctor and we said, hey, here are my symptoms. Here's the pain points. We've gone through the how now, and the doctor said, great, we've actually figured out the root. We know what's causing that pain. Here's the medicine to go solve that pain. And then we just take the medicine and throw it in the garbage and we never take it. No, we actually have to take it. We have to do the next step. We have to take the medicine to get better. And that's the part I want to make sure we don't skip here. You identified the what, you know how. Then we're going to talk about when, getting the time into your calendars to go focus on this. If you don't do that, you will never actually truly go solve what you needed to do. And it's hard right now with so much happening and so much going on. How do we have that time in our calendar? Well, you all identified earlier in the chat some of those indicators that you have. You said, this is my pain. Here's where I want to go. You're going to go into your breakout rooms. You're going to go work on finding the roots of these issues and how to solve them. Now, let me give you a tool that'll connect some dots after the webinar today, after the breakout rooms, on what you can do just even for the next 2 weeks alone, just to put some focus around this. So I'm going to show it on the screen here. Paige will drop this in the handouts of the webinar here in a moment. Paige, I'll let you know when to do it. But just so we focus on this, it could be a bit of an eyesore on the screen. So just try and focus with me on it. So right now we've got it set up for the 4th week of July. This is a spreadsheet we're going to share with you. Indicator 1, 2, and 3. This will be replaced by you with what you determine you're going to go focus on. And then each of these spaces here in this orange color, you will start to fill out at the end of each day. Take 1 minute each day and just put in the amount of hours or time you spent on each of those indicators, or the amount of time that you spent on all the other items that you have to work on throughout the day. And the goal of doing this is to show you an example here. When this is all filled out at the end of the week, you can see the collection of data at the bottom. This tool will automatically add all these up and run the calculations for you. This is going to show you how much time, what percent of your time you're spending on each one of those indicators, and in individual and in aggregate. So if we look quick math here with this example, this is saying we spent about 51 or 52% of our time on our indicators, and then 48 or 49% on the other stuff we're doing. If you remember what Dan said, the goal is to simplify, batch, or leverage items in your day so you can spend 50% or more of your time going all in on those indicators that you identify. That's the purpose of this tool that we're going to share with you, is for you to be able to track this. Now, for full disclosure, the first week you track it, you're probably not going to be at 50% of your time with these indicators, just for the simple fact that that hasn't been where your focus has been yet. Okay, but you want to track it to get some clarification on this so you can see what you need to shift, what you need to pivot. If you take the time and you identify what the most crucial parts of your business are, where you need to go focus, take the time to track it, see it through clarity where your time is, and then you could start to go focus on how to solve that going forward. So Paige, if you want to drop that in the handouts real quick here, we'll give everybody just a second. It should have popped up for you right now. You guys can click download. I'm seeing you download it. I'm just going to give it a second so you can get that. Do me a favor, just download it. Go look at it later. It's just a fleshed out version of what I just showed you, and we'll come back. We'll bring it in for some focus here at the end, and then we're going to go over to our breakout rooms here shortly. So it looks like 70% of us so far have clicked into that. Download it. Even if you think I'm never going to use this, maybe you have a friend that'll use it. Maybe it's something later on that you come back to. Download it, have it, look at it, and then it's something that you can take forward with your advisor as well, and they can start to build this out month over month for you if you find the value in it that I do and that we do. So we've got almost 80% of the audience has it downloaded. I'm going to move forward and continue here at this point. Let's jump back to the chat room here. What learning did you capture from what? Yes, Hayden, could be great for the employees too. So using the chat room, what learning did you capture from the 40 minutes or so that we spent today, just kind of sharing some of these processes and tools with you as we lead into our breakouts. What learning were you able to capture? Share it in the chat. Prediction versus reflection trading. Yeah, the leading versus the lagging. We have nothing to measure if we don't know what we're going to measure. So it's important that we get to those indicators first. Christine, need to remember to return to the tools you already know. Siren, yeah, we learned so many things. It's tough to keep up on it. Make a note for yourself. Come back to that process. John, yeah, the roller coaster is real. Joseph, you have to work on prioritizing your time. Joseph, make sure you use that sheet. It'll let you know, unbiased where you're spending that time. Trade focus on a few small items at a time. Yeah, think of my golf game. It's terrible. With one or two tweaks, though, I got a lot better than I was. Sebastian, building the habit to measure problem-solving process. Yeah, making sure it starts to become muscle memory. We'll slow down in our breakout rooms, and we'll start to connect some of those dots. Greg, yeah, slow down. Do the info gathering before you try and solve. Renee, the lack of clarity with leading indicators drives overwhelming. Yeah, get to that root issue so you know what you're trying to solve, so you're not just throwing darts at it all day and guessing. Joel, you're still processing. Yeah, no problem. Take it in. It's we're going to have the webinar again available for you on our learning center as well. So if you need to be able to go back and take some more of it back in, you can. Matt, fine tuning the activity that impacts the leading indicators. Yeah, these are all great takeaways. Write these down. Don't just write them in the chat. Write them down for yourself as a memory of what your aha moment was here that you could apply going forward. Yes, Paige, we will post the recording on our platform tomorrow. I want to ask the question differently now. You shared what you got out of this. Now, we also know in 40 minutes, we can't solve the world. So we focused on a few micro pieces of content to share with you. Where can we go deeper? If we were going to do a 102 level on this, if we were going to add more content to our community platform, where can we go deeper? Sherry, you said you were confused on what a leading indicator was. Leading indicator predicts performance. Yes, so very much like a KPI. This is what's going to predict performance later. A lagging indicator measures the performance of later. Leading is this. If we do this, we should be able to achieve this. Lagging is we did that. What did we achieve? Very much like a KPI. So using the chat, where can we go deeper? Do I want to golf this weekend? I can't. I'm skiing. Thank you. Okay. For purposes of time, if you're typing, go ahead and send it through. If you have other items that you want us to go deeper on, you can also contact us through the community portal as well. But put them in here. We do save the chat. So even though I move forward, we will be able to capture where we can go deeper on this. So add these items to your roadmap to continue working on with your advisor. Okay. If you want to watch it again, as Paige mentioned, we will have it in our CEO webinar section of our courses within our community. So you can go back and watch this again and get a refresher on a couple of the items, fast forward or rewind to the parts you want to go focus on as well. In there, we have the definition on the leading indicators as well, so we can slow down and go back to that. If you want to get additional training that helps you benefit the skills we talked about, we also have a great productivity course within our community that's got different lessons based on where you feel you need help in some of the time allocation process there. Get in there and check that out, and make sure when you're in our community, you also go look at the perks, referring a member, taking the PI assessments for you or for your team or for recruits. And if you have those that you feel would benefit from some of this content that are with your organization, add them in as an LMS user and allow them to take advantage of this content. It's a very small barrier of entry to be able to get them on and enjoy these perks with you. So before we talk about our breakout rooms, quick high level to get a date in your calendar. August 19th, we're talking about attracting talent that performs. And Casey Clark, our CEO, will be back, and he'll be bringing in special guest, our recruiter from Cultivate, Cassie, and they're going to walk you through the different elements to ensure you have the qualified employees that will grow the business with you and be your partner in the business along that way. Denise, you mentioned this is an area you wanted to really focus on this year. This would be a great webinar to make sure you have bookmarked to come back to next month as well. Catapult 2020, we're still on. You're still going to get the emails from it. We have both virtual and live options available in different areas of the country, both Chicago and Vancouver. More details on that, but make sure you get registered for Catapult 2020. We have great speakers lined up. We have great content lined up, and it's just an amazing opportunity to network, whether we're together or whether we're going to be virtual, whichever route you decide to choose. There's going to be equally great content for both parties. So make sure you register for this. Talk to your advisor about if you have any questions, and Paige will continue to send out more details as they evolve. Now let's talk about our roundtables. We're gonna start to move into our breakout groups. These are the questions that you're going to ask. Your breakout room leaders will have these as well. So if you're an advisor and you're leading a breakout room, or if you're leading a Zoom room right now, this would be a good time for you to jump off and get your Zoom room started up right now. So we're ready to jump into those. So Brad, Connor, Will, and Simone would be a great time for you to jump off and go start those. For those of you that are going to be in these discussion groups, take a quick minute, share who you are, where you're from, what your business does, get to know each other. We saved you quite a bit of time, so you've got more time for discussion. And then when you're in there, you're going to talk about, these are 3 areas you can focus on. How are you going to keep the right mindset towards solving newly set year-end objectives? What do you believe are your leading indicators? Listen to each other and then challenge each other to ensure you're on the route. And then brainstorm as a group on how to solve each other's biggest leading indicators to get the biggest lift in the organization. You may not get to all of these, okay, but these are some of the discussions you could start to have. Elizabeth, how do you know which roundtable you're in? Sorry, I will explain that in a moment. I'm sorry for the confusion. I will share how to join and which one to join into in a brief moment here. Expectations for the roundtables here. And ask any questions that you need answers to. Make sure you validate what you're hearing someone else say to make sure you've heard it correctly. Help that alignment. Share without bias. When we challenge each other, that's when we can really start to grow. But be respectful of each other and their feelings and their situations. And then take notes, because that's how you take action. So as far as knowing which roundtable to join, here we break up by stage. So hustler, experimenter, visionary, systemizer, influencer. Read the definitions of each of these stages so you know which room you should go join. So hustler, you're a solopreneur with no full-time employees. That's for you. Experimenter, you have a few employees that are reporting into you. Go into the experimenter's room. Visionary, you have 5 or more employees reporting directly into you. Join the visionary breakout. Systemizer, you've recently hired leaders and managers within the organization. Join the systemizer room. An influencer, you lead through a formal leadership team. Go join our influencer room. That's how you know which roundtable you're in. Trayton, here's where you're going to go to join. It's gonna pop up on the screen right now, and then we'll leave the demo webinar open for just a few extra minutes here in case you have any questions. You should see a button that says join now. Go join and join your breakout room. Thanks for joining us on this webinar today. Appreciate it.